in not existing, and it is in the present tense. Yume is an adjective for famous or well known. The na after the yume is there because adjectives in Japanese usually fall into one of two broadly defined categories. Either an adjective will end with an e, the e hiragana syllable, or there'll be other adjectives that they're called na adjectives. They don't necessarily always have na after them. We'll get into adjectives as we move along, but this is an example of a na adjective. Okay? And dobutsuen is zoo, perhaps not surprisingly. Make sense, everybody, so far?
Yes.
Okay. Now, the next line is a little bit shorter. I'll say this one again, so that way, I'm still demonstrating how to do this. So desu ka? Tanoshimi ni shite imasu. Since Helen-san, not Helen-san. I'm used to Helen-san being here. Okay, Michelle-san, since you took the last sentence, Larissa-san, would you mind trying to take this one?
The whole thing, or just the first sentence? Well, I can do the whole thing.
Yeah, the first bit is not too long, so I didn't want to leave you just doing too little.
Okay. So desu ka? Tanoshimi ni? No, tanoshimi.
Yeah, that was fine.
Okay. Shite imasu.
Yep, excellent.
Shite imasu. Okay.
Yep. Tanoshimi ni shite imasu. Which is very, very good, by the way, because it's not easy saying that many syllables in a row. Tanoshimi ni shite imasu is altogether, I'm looking forward to it, or I'm excited, something to that effect. So desu ka, as we talked about previously, is the rhetorical. Is often a rhetorical question of is that so, in a purely rhetorical sense, because Wen-san is not literally confirming this. She is simply acknowledging that she heard something that she did not know before. Make sense, everybody?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Okay, now let's try and get our feet wet a little bit more. Michelle-san, would you like to
before we go on, can I just get a clarification?
Absolutely.
The Tanoshimi, which part is that?
So,
I guess that's...
Go ahead, sorry.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
That's okay. So, the word tanoshi, which in that case would have another e on the end after the shi, is the word for fun or enjoyable. And the shiteimasu, that borrows from a verb that we'll get quite used to as we get used to more grammar. The base root of the verb is suru, but it's used in a lot of cases to indicate some kind of action, like to do cleaning, to do studying, or things like that. I'm not quite sure how these pieces exactly blend together to make this what it is, but combined, it effectively comes to anticipating enjoyment or anticipating fun.
So it's like enjoyment or fun looking forward to.
Exactly. That overall block of Tanoshimi ni shiteimasu covers the entirety of that English sentence below it. I'm looking forward to it.
Mm-hmm.
Do you need a second to write that down, or are you okay?
I already wrote it. Okay. Thank you.
Sure. No worries. So, Michelle-san, let me just get my mouse so that way I can more easily indicate what just get our feet a little bit more wet this time, so that way, we're getting our own practice. Would you like to take can you see what I just highlighted there?
Yes.
Okay. Would you like to try that?
Yeah, no problem. 私も、でも、もう遅い時間ですね。
Right. Okay, thank you very much. And In this case, watashi we've seen before multiple times. Watashi is I or me. Mo is another one. It's another particle. There's always more particles, but we'll get those will become more common and more explained in detail as we advance bit by bit through the grammar. Mo in this case refers to something that shares some sort of quality with something else. There's something in common with something. In this case, if you're saying watashi mo, you're effectively saying me too. In this case, Michiko-san is responding to Wendy-san's saying, I'm looking forward to it. If Michiko-san is saying watashi mo, she's saying, I am as well. I am also looking forward to it. And notice, once again, as we've talked about before, some things are left out of the sentence because they're already understood. Michiko-san does not have to say, watashi mo tanoshimi ni shite imasu. She could say that, theoretically, but it would sound a bit odd because she would be repeating word for word what Wendy-san was already saying when Wendy-san knows what she would already mean in any case. For example, imagine if you said to a friend, I am looking forward to summer vacation. And then you responded, I too am looking forward to summer vacation. That would sound a little bit unusual. You would say, me too, because it's already clear that what you're talking about. Make sense?
Yes.
Okay. Now, after watashi mo, demo is a fairly common word. It's a good one to know. Demo covers a bunch of different English words, however, but it combines to the idea of, regardless of what I said previously in this sentence, there is something else that is a but statement. So demo means like but, however, things like that, okay?
Yes.
After demo and after the comma, mo, the M and the U, the mo and the U, mo means, in this case, already. There are other meanings it can have in this case, but in this case it means already. And what it means, you can see already down here in the English sentence. Osoi is the word for, it can mean, once again, it can have different meanings, but it can mean slow, it could mean late. In this case, it means late. You can see where the idea of late and slow coming into the same adjective might blend together. Because very often when somebody is late, it was because they were slow in coming to something, or so on and so forth. In this case, osoi more literally means late, as in late in the day. And by the way, just referring back to something I said earlier, osoi is an example of one of those e adjectives that ends in an e that I mentioned earlier. Everybody can see the e right after the so. Everybody can see that?
Yes.
Okay.
And what did you say that signified again when it ends that way?
So adjectives, not in all cases, but in most cases, will either end in an e, being creatively called e adjectives, or the other adjectives will be called na adjectives, where their dictionary version will end in a na. You might not always see the na there, but those are the two, to be more basic about it, broadly defined adjective categories, e adjectives and na adjectives. That we'll see what that means in practice and how they conjugate differently as we get to it. But just to begin pointing out what an adjective usually looks like, so that way we begin to get more used to it. Not every word that ends in e is an adjective, but you'll find that a lot of adjectives end in e, or the dictionary version ends in na, being the na adjectives. I'll explain each little bit as we go, so that way, there's nothing that's just left completely confusing. I apologize for saying so often that there's grammar that we're not going to get to this time. I just figured that if I try to overload on the grammar all at once, it'll just become a bit too much. So we're just going to take it at a gentle pace. Everybody okay with that?
Yes.
Okay. Now after osoi is the word jikan right here. Jikan can mean time or hour or things like that. When you're combining it with that osoi jikan, you're saying it's the hour is late, effectively. It's too late in the day. So it's the time. Osoi jikan. Osoi is the adjective. Jikan is a noun. Effectively, it's saying the time is late. And then desne is des plus ne. Ne after des is also to some extent rhetorical, but it functions as it's similar to the English word the English phrase isn't it? If I say "I tenki desu ne," tenki is the word for weather, I'm saying the weather is nice, isn't it? To which somebody might say yes. They're not likely to say no, it's not, unless they're feeling particularly grumpy. But the ne functions as as isn't it in its own way after des. Okay.
I have a question.
Yes.
Is jikan necessary in the sentence? Like, could you say "mo osoi desu ne," or is that, but it not sound natural? Is what
I think that would be better answered by Yui Sensei, because I think that was one of her edits.
Okay.
Yes. I think it's fine, especially like you're in the hour, probably it's getting dark, what we're talking about. I think I was trying to conserve what was the original sentence and convert it to something that is clear. So yes, I think that as far as like speaking, mo soy desu ne is like total makes sense.
Yes. Oh, okay.
Great question.
Thank you.
Yeah, great. Love that.
Right. And as you're saying, Michelle-san, technically speaking, if they already know that if the other person were to already know that we're talking about time, it could be shortened to mo osoi desu ne. But depending on the level of casual versus formal that we're talking about, we're aiming to some extent towards a more formal way of speaking, since that's probably the better version to learn from the very beginning. Quite often when people are speaking very casually, the actual way that they say the verbs are much shorter. But that's a step for another time, because once again, we don't want to be overly confusing here.
Oh, okay. I just wanted to make sure.
Sure.
Okay, thank you.
Absolutely. Now, Loretta-san, since Michelle-san said the last bit, could you try and say this part for me here?
Okay. Ban gohan o tabemasen ka. Masenka.
Masenka, right.
Okay.
Very, very good. Thank you. Ban gohan is the word for dinner. Gohan, you'll see in a few cases, literally means meal. Actually, in a purely literal sense, it means cooked rice. In the traditional sense that rice would accompany essentially every regular meal, but it has become more of an all-purpose word for mealtime, effectively, in the same way that trying to think. Okay, here's a very Christian example. That when we say the phrase "Give us this day our daily bread," we don't just mean as in literal bread, but that rather bread, as rice is in a lot of places, particularly in East Asia, bread was the staple grain in the Middle East and Europe and so on. So it became almost ubiquitous for the idea of just food in general. So bangohan, the ban part, which matches this kanji up here. By the way, I'm not expecting you to remember the kanji necessarily. This is just to explain things. The ban part that goes to that kanji means night or evening. So you've heard konbanwa. The ban part in konbanwa refers to that same kanji of good evening. Now, admittedly, konbanwa is, I don't think I've ever actually seen it written out in kanji, but it comes to the same underlying meaning. Make sense?
And I think that you might have heard ban gohan, yu gohan, yoru gohan.
Mm-hmm.
Everything is fine. Yoru gohan probably you wouldn't learn in textbook, but I think in the textbook you learn one way or the other. I don't remember which one, but both are correct because yu means evening, ban is also evening. So if you learn one way that's not this, you're not wrong. It's just that there are multiple ways. There's no many ways to say lunch. Hirugohan is hirugohan. You can also say lunchy, but for dinner, for whatever reason, we have more than one. It's not different. It doesn't mean supper versus dinner. It's like I don't know.
Right. Though admittedly, even in English, there are a lot of folks who use the word supper to mean dinner. So it's in a lot of contexts, not just in Japanese, you'll get multiple words for the same thing, which that can reflect simply one might be slang versus the other is not. It may be that there's a regional difference. I mean, to use one example that comes right to mind, how people in the northeast of the United States refer to the shoes that you wear when you do sports as sneakers, whereas there's other parts of the country in the U.S. where they call them tennis shoes. Exactly how that came to be, I have absolutely no idea. But nevertheless, it's in practice means the same thing. But what's exactly the standard in the Japanese case? In the Japanese case, when you're learning from a textbook, you are learning the Kanto dialect. The Kanto plain is Tokyo and its surrounding area, such as Yokohama, Chiba, Saitama, and really just sprawling out in its endlessness. But the Kanto dialect has been effectively standard Japanese ever since even before Tokyo became the official capital, when the emperor moved there in the 1860s, but even going back to when Tokyo, before Tokyo was called Edo, back in the 15 to 1600s going forward. And that became the effective capital in the early 1600s when Edo's leading military, I don't know if we'll call it governor or military general named Tokugawa Ieyasu became the effectively in charge of the country as shogun, the leading general in charge of the country. So ever since then, that dialect of Japanese has more and more become the standard. Does that make sense, everybody?
Yes.
Yes. I think you're gonna hear different things. Just one more thing. You might hear this is super like you never. So east we say maku, like MSC, maku. But like west, I hear makudo or makudo, as like something like that. So kind of abbreviating the first three letters of McDonald's in Japanese, which is makudo narudo. So, whatever I
Go
say.
figure.
So you might find different things as a random that might be different regionally. Depends on where you're living or where you visit or where your family is. So, some things are, this bangohan versus yugohan is not regional. I don't think it's more. I don't even know. But yes, there are variations. But one word. We understand, and if you know as bangohan, move on. That's great.
Right. Exactly.
Sorry.
Yes, Michelle-san, you have a question?
I don't want to get ahead or anything, but for tabemasen ka, if you can say tabemashou ka, but that's more casual.
Tabemashou ka would be more in the vein. So tabemashou ka, okay, there's a slight difference in terms of the underlying meaning. Tabemashou ka would be more in the vein of, well, you can say tabemashou or tabemashou ka, but both involve more the idea of let's do something. Or tabemashou ka would be, why don't we do blank of some kind or another? Like, in the most literal sense I can think of, because the ka turns into tabemasho by itself. Tabemasho by itself would be let's go to eat, or something to that effect.
Yeah, you're just like you're not like, it's almost like it's like a suggestion, but not really. You're just like, oh, come on, let's just go,
Right.
Let's just go eat. Yeah.
Whereas tabemasen ka functions a bit more like, it can function a bit more like an invitation to do something.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a literal translation in that regard, but it also functions of why not do blank. It's a more gentle way of inviting someone to do something, because you're not being so direct as in, well, why don't we go eat? Most of, well, do you want to eat? That's not a literal translation, obviously, but it's a translation of the underlying idea.
Mm.
Because if you're saying tabemasen ka, because masen is the negative version. We'll get to positive versus negative. When I say positive, I mean it's yes doing something, or negative meaning no, not doing something. Saying it as tabemasen ka in a subtle way opens up the possibility, the door for somebody to ideally politely be able to decline if they do not want to do something, or if something is inconvenient. Ideally, they'll say yes, but tabemasen ka, in a very, like I said, in a subtle way, it doesn't put the onus on the person to feel pushed to say yes. It gives them the subtle way of being able to politely decline if they should so choose. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
I think in reality, you can say either.
Yes.
Even casually, ご飯食べない? Like, do we want to eat meal, like a food? Like, that's with friends, right? But, so yeah, I think that the nuance makes sense to me completely. So, but you can choose to, I guess color, use distinguish the nuance and use it, or whichever. I mean, it does communicate, the intention that I want to, it's something with you, right? So, yeah.
Okay.
Great. That's great.
You'll find with a number of these things that there's the literal meaning of something, and then there is the implication of why am I saying it this way. And that's just one example of this, that it's indicating I'd like to do something, and I'd like for you to do it with me, but I'm also not going to be, I'm not holding you at gunpoint here, metaphorically speaking. So, no, taking that. And that was a good question, by the way. Thank you. I actually didn't, I had forgotten to bring that up. So let me take this. Okay, so this is a bit of a long Lorenzo-san, you said the last bit, right?
Did I? I don't remember.
Yeah, I think, because you said ban gohan. No, yeah, yep, you said that. Okay. Michelle-san, would you like to take this line here?
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
そうですね。私たちの予約は何時ですか?
Mm-hmm. Right. Thank you very much. Very good. So desu ne is another it's another very common thing you'll hear. It is effectively it's saying right, or that's so, or that's
or
true.
I understand. Is it sometimes used that way? Like,
I think you could use
or
it
I
that
see.
Way. I see. Yes. I see, or yes. Could be yes.
Mm-hmm.
Depends on the context.
Right.
Okay.
It's another one of those things that it's common enough that it can cover a number of different potential meanings. In this case, it's simply confirming what the other person, confirming / in response to Michiko-san's question of do you want to go eat, is effectively like saying yes, without just literally saying hi. Which would be a little bit unusual. Watashi tachi. So watashi is I or me. Tachi is something that is added to some words to indicate plurality. In this case, you can add it to watashi to turn I/me into we/us. So so now Wendy-san is referring to not just herself, but to both of them together. The no after watashi is our buddy no, the particle no we talked about previously, making something, connecting two different nouns, where the first noun makes the second noun more specific. Yoyaku is the word for reservation down here. So if it's watashitachi no yoyaku, it's our reservation. Make sense?
Yes. So what tachi, that's we.
Yes, we.
So whenever you want to say we, you could say, or a lot of times you could say that.
Watashitachi?
Yeah.
Yes, that would be we or us. In the same way that watashi is I or me.
Okay.
The wa after yoyaku is the same wa that we've gotten so used to. It is marking this entire phrase before watashitachi no yoyaku as the subject or topic of the sentence. Watashitachi no yoyaku wa. The nanji desu ka we've also seen previously. Nanji is our old buddy for what time is it, and then desu ka is the question part of it. So collectively, nanji desu ka is what time is it. If we're talking about the reservation, we're saying together what time is our reservation. Make sense?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Now, since Michelle-san took the last bit, Loretta-san, could you take? Not the whole thing. Okay, just this line here.
Okay. Go hachiji desu.
Right. Remember, Loretta-san, when we talked about time previously?
Mm-hmm. And hachi is 8 p.m.
Hachi is 8, and the
G
go-go part
is the hour. Or
the G is the hour. Very good. Very good. Okay. And the go-go part is for p.m.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So that part wasn't too hard because we've gone over it. I don't think you were there, Michelle-san, when we talked about time. But have you seen this before?
Yes, I have.
Okay, so this is already good for you?
Yeah, I'm good with it.
Okay, so moving on to the next line, since Loretta-san took that bit, Michelle-san, would you want to take just the first little bit of this, or are we going to take the whole line?
I can take the whole line.
Okay, but by all means, fire away.
Okay. もう8時ですね。タクシーを探しましょう。
But, and by the way, there's a masho, just like you were pointing at, just like you were bringing up earlier. So there's a good example of that. And thank you very much. So, mo hachiji desu ne. We see mo again. This time, as I was saying earlier, it doesn't always mean all. What did it specifically mean earlier? I'm losing track of everything. Earlier it meant already. In this case, it's referring more to the idea of almost something. So once again, it can go in different directions. When I'm saying mo hachiji desu ne, there is a kanji here. My, how scandalous.
Probably me. I don't know.
That's okay. I mean, Michelle-san persevered nonetheless, so much applause. No, not a big deal. All that it means in this case is, it's getting close to 8 already. So it's soon to be going to be time for their reservation to eat dinner. Takushi. This bit here is katakana, which we will get back to as we keep going through our review and re-review of the hiragana and katakana. Takushi.
Taxi, is it?
It's the Nihonization of taxi. Yeah, exact little throwaway. Takushi noriba would be a taxi waiting area. That would be a obvious reason. when one of the first people. Oh, I say my internet connection is unstable. Can everybody still hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Now.
Good. Yeah. Okay. Good. One of the first people who I spoke to when I got to Japan was a taxi driver. So it's a good one to have in your arsenal of words, because otherwise your luggage will get mysteriously heavier as you walk along. Now the o here, it's strictly speaking wo, but it becomes o as a particle, indicating what that the takoshi is the object of this verb. They're trying to sagasu is the word for to find something. So we're finding a taxi. The taxi is the object of the sentence. Sagasu gets conjugated as sagashimashou. The masho part, we'll talk about what the shi means when we get to verb conjugation, because that's a whole topic unto itself that I would rather not cover all in just 2 minutes right now. But the masho, as I was saying earlier when we were talking about taberu, the masho functions in the vein of let's do blank, as in let's find a taxi. Make sense?
And what does the mo mean?
Mo in this case, the mo referred to already earlier.
So you don't pronounce the u then, because it's at the end of the word?
Because it follows, the u is not heard as distinctively, because it follows a hiragana that ends in o.
Oh, okay.
Similar to how so desu ka, since the u follows a so, the u blends into the o to the point that it becomes like a hybrid vowel of o, so, as opposed to so u. It doesn't just, it's not two separate syllables, but rather one prolonged vowel that is not exactly o, and it's not u either. It's so.
So the mo would be almost?
In this case, yes. Mo is a funny little word that can mean different things. It can mean already. It can mean almost. It, like so much else with this language, is contextual. I've heard it most often used as already, but don't take that as an absolute.
Okay.
Everybody good?
So how would you know in that case if it meant it's already 8 or it's almost 8? Well, I guess if you had a clock that you could see, you would know.
I think so. There is certainly the potential for confusion if you didn't have a clock. If a clock was not there, somebody might say something different that was more explicit. They might say it's 7:40 or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So what would actually be said would be different if it was clear to the person saying it that the other person did not have a clock, and they could otherwise get confused. So it can, yeah. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I guess a lot of it goes back to context.
As always.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, welcome to the jungle. We have fun and games.
Okay.
There's your 1980s Guns N' Roses reference.
Okay.
So Michelle-san took the last line. Loretta, I would like to take this one. I'll eventually try to not, highlight both of them.
So, hora.
Mm-hmm.
Takushi desu.
Yep.
Oh, I think I figured that out with what it means without looking, except the definition.
Yeah. So could be definitely or yup. In other words, these a very is that a wave of I have something to say, or I'm seeing a hand on B-sensei's square or rectangle.
Oh no, I was just reacting without, because I'm not showing face. So, good job.
Okay, no worries.
Yes.
So functions like yup or definitely or In other words, yeah. The followed by the little tsu could indicate a couple of things. One, it could indicate surprise. Two, it could be though in this case, though that could also be for those of you who have watched anime, you have perhaps heard or something to that effect. Could indicate surprise. It could indicate that you remembered something, or just that something is quickly grabbing your attention. In this case, when it's followed by hora means like look or see over there. Hora. It's to get our minds into the scene here. Michiko-san would be pointing, hora, like pointing towards the taxi. Takushi desu is fairly self-explanatory because since we've already talked about takushi and desu, it means it's a taxi, like, or there's a taxi. To say takushi ga arimasu, you could technically say that, but it's longer and not necessarily, you don't have to be that explicit. You could just say takushi desu, meaning like a taxi is here. It's implied what the meaning is there, because if you wouldn't be saying takushi desu unless you're saying, behold, Wendy-san, this is a taxi. It's like, yes, I know. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So Loretta-san took that line. We had going on to our last line then. Michelle-san, would you like to take that one?
Okay. すみません。こちらへ来てください。
So thank you very much. Once again, well done. With a little tsu, once again, indicates either some amount of surprise or alertedness. Sumimasen is another one of those all-purpose words for excuse me or sorry to bother you. In this case, we're using it as excuse me towards like as though she's waving her arm out for the taxi person to stop. Kochira is a polite way of saying here or over here. Hekite I actually haven't seen before. I think that I don't know if that was one of my additions. Yui Sensei, would you mind explaining that one?
Can you tell me the question again? I'm sorry.
That's okay. The hekite part, I can tell that's a conjugated. That's a verb that's been modified, but I haven't seen that myself.
No, it's こちらへ来てください.
So, kochira e. Oh,
yeah.
it's the particle.
Right.
Now I get it. Okay. So
I think the kanji when you see the one on the red.
Oh right, yeah.
Yes.
I wasn't even looking at that. Whoops.
No, you got it.
E is another one of those particles. Another one. We'll explain the particles in more detail as I was saying earlier. E can mean location. It could also mean the direction of movement of something. It is often used in combination with the verb kuru, which means to come, C-O-M-E. In this case, conjugated as kite. Since something is coming towards you, that is once again the idea of the direction of something. So, in combination with the kochira right before it, means to come, along with kite means to come here, to come to where the two of us, Wendy-san and Michiko-san, are standing. So, kochira e kite is to come here. The reason why it's conjugated as kite, well, once again, this will be something we'll get to as well, is because it's followed by the word for please, kudasai. You'll see verbs will end in what's called a te form, which, like I said, we'll get to that later. Verbs will be conjugated in a so-called te form. They'll finish off with this te when they're followed by kudasai to imply altogether, please do blank. If I say one commonly heard thing, once again in anime, mate kudasai. Matsu is the word to wait. So mate kudasai is please wait. Kite kudasai, coming out of kuru. Kite kudasai is please come to me. Kochira e kite kudasai is please come over here to us. but you don't necessarily say us in English because it's already assumed if you're saying over here to where I'm standing. Does that make sense to everybody?
So why do they have it in the hiragana, but then in the romanji they don't have that other word, that heisate or whatever?
That is a good question. I think that might just be
it's
a
just
typo.
an oversight.
Yeah.
Okay.
Actually, that was a very long-term ploy on my part to get someone to specifically point that out, so that way they would demonstrate their Japanese language ability.
And it's
that's my story. I'm
he.
sticking to it.
He. It's he, not he. He.
Well, because when normally that is he, but when it becomes a particle, it drops the h.
The h. Okay.
Yeah, in the same way that wo becomes o when it's a particle, or ha becomes wa for whatever reason.
I have a question. So,
yes.
For kochira e, could you also use kochira ni, or in this case, it's just better to use e, like kochira e?
So ni and e do have overlap. It may be that one is more is more standard as in terms of how people actually talk, which is I think where Yui Sensei is better suited to say what is actually more common to be spoken.
I think kochira e sounds more formal,
Mm-hmm.
but kochira ni sounds completely fine. So
Okay.
I think both are correct. If you want to be polite, I think it would be safe, but it doesn't mean that ni is informal. It's slightly informal, but it's still correct. And
How about? Oh, I'm so sorry.
Sure. No. Go ahead.
How about in like for example, if I want to say uchi e kairimashita or uchi e kairimasu, is that okay? Is that sound more formal, or like instead of using me?
I think uchi ni sounds a little bit informal, but not rude at all. Slightly informal, but slightly. But so either way, it's good. I mean, as far as me listening, having conversation in class, the precise grammar, I don't know, but it sounds completely fine to me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Great question.
So that gives us about a couple minutes left. I don't think we necessarily have time to do anything else today. Next time we'll take our next column of hiragana as we've been doing, as well as some more explicit, just an actual grammar topic, as opposed to just there's this grammar point or this grammar point. We'll actually cover a topic in general next time as well. Any summary questions about anything?
I think it might be also good if you don't mind sharing this, to share it in the chat WhatsApp group so that they can practice, or we can practice next time as a whole. That's another idea. I think the hiragana is great. Yeah, so I think maybe just a suggestion, right? So that might be good to be able to like read through the conversation. It's like, hey, we had a conversation. That's also cool. So
sure, sounds good to me. What I can do is I've just been rather busy lately. I can post the various things that the slideshows and conversations that I've made in the last few weeks to the chat. Not all in one go, so that way it doesn't become just like a bing, 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 bing on your phone. But I can do that this week of posting the various conversation practices and slideshows that I made back into December. So I'll be sure to bring those up.
Thank you. Sounds great.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So
was this helpful today, everyone?
Yes. Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you, David-san. Great work. And thank you for participating. And so I will finish the Facebook Live. Thank you for those for joining as well. We will meet in person next week. We'll keep you posted. Okay, so we're done with Japanese class. We'll have Bible study at 11. I think that those in Spanish class will be ending, so we'll see them soon. So thank you, everybody.
Arigatou
Okay.
gozaimasu.
Arigatou gozaimasu.
Thank you.